Good morning, church family. Today we're going to be in Luke chapter 22, starting in verse 47. It reads, "While he was still speaking, a crowd came up, and the man who was called Judas, one of the 12, was leading them. He approached Jesus to kiss him, but Jesus asked him, 'Judas, are you betraying the Son of Man with a kiss?' When Jesus' followers saw what was going to happen, they said, 'Lord, should we strike with our swords?' And the one of them struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his right ear. But Jesus answered, 'No more of this.' And he touched the man's ear and healed him. Then Jesus said to the chief priests, the officers of the temple guard, and the elders who had come for him, 'Am I leading a rebellion that you come with swords and clubs? Every day I was with you in the temple courts, and you did not lay a hand on me. But this is your hour when darkness reigns.' Then seizing him, they led him away and took him into the house of the high priest." You know, as I look at this passage, it strikes me the position and the posture that those who are betraying Jesus and those who are looking to arrest Jesus took in regards to him. As Judas approaches Jesus, and he does so, and he has told those who are coming to arrest him that, hey, the one that I kissed, that's the one you are to arrest. And Jesus calls it out against Judas and says, "Judas, are you betraying me with a kiss?" You know, that picture of a kiss, unlike a kiss in our culture, which is an intimate sign of affection, the idea of a kiss was the welcome, right? It was the approach to relationship. Hey, because we are in a relationship together, we kiss one another on the cheek. It's a sign of a desire to have a relationship with one another. And here, Jesus says, hey, is the relationship that you want with me based on a betrayal? You chose to use something, a gift that's been given to you, the gift of relationship, a familiarity that Judas and Jesus have probably shared often over the last 3 years. Something that had signified the depth of their relationship, the openness that had occurred, and here it was being used to betray Jesus, because Jesus wasn't what Judas wanted, because the ways in which Jesus was leading wasn't what Judas was hoping for, because Judas's will wasn't being accomplished through Jesus. So he betrays him with a kiss. And in that same manner, the chief priests and the temple guards and the elders who are with him, they come at Jesus with clubs and swords. And Jesus calls them out and says, hey, if you wanted to arrest me, I preach every day in the synagogue. But instead you come under the shroud of night, and you come with swords and clubs. Why did you come under the shroud of night? If you remember several days ago, we talked about the fear that the chief priests had. And it wasn't the fear of God, it wasn't the fear of Jesus, it was the fear of the crowds. And so they come under the shroud of night to try and circumvent that fear. But yet they're so fearful in their hearts, they come with swords and clubs to arrest a man who hasn't raised a rebellion, who hasn't raised a sword, who hasn't sought to lead others against the religious authorities. He's rebuked them, yes, but he hasn't sought for anybody to cause harm against them. And yet, here they come, intending to and prepared that Jesus would cause harm to them, even though there's no place for that. I think so often about our relationship with Jesus and how often we come with our preconceived notions and our assumptions about what Jesus desires for us and from us, and what we're going to face in front of him. And so oftentimes we come seeking to appease God or level with him or make him less angry with us, or to manipulate him in order to get what we want. And in reality, all God desires for us and from us is an open relationship, to recognize truth, to see what he has done, and to stand in awe and be reminded that that's who we were made for. And so often we come ready with shields and stones and spears, ready to be on the offensive against the one who loves us and made us and died for us. And it convicts my heart to be reminded of my posture when I approach God. I need to give thought to it. I need to place myself in an appropriate posture that I might not be at odds with God. Because yes, there's areas of my life definitely need to be rebuked, but all the rebuking is for my good, not for God's good, because He always is good. And maybe when I do so, I might be willing to accept His words, accept His truth better, and walk more obediently. But when I'm ready to defend and to fight and to manipulate, and so often then I find myself in sin. Because God doesn't come at me with sword and club. He comes at me with arms open wide, with wounds in His hands and in His side. He comes at me with love and compassion and forgiveness. He comes at me with grace and mercy. May I approach Him in the same manner. If that's you, I'd love to hear with you, and I'd love to pray that the Lord would soften our hearts and give us a different resolve, because I know I desperately need that. I look forward to tomorrow, continue on our study through the book of Luke as we continue on in Luke chapter 22.